Welcome to Lil Donnie's opposite world. All the things he said he'd do and what's actually happened. It's been over a year since Donnie got into office. He's had more than enough time and more than enough power to actually accomplish his stated goals. Let's take a look, shall we? He said we'd have lower grocery prices. As of today, they're around 2.1% higher than when he took office and rising fast. He said he'd cut energy bills by 50%. They're up nearly 7%, and the Iranian war is kicking them even higher, projected to be around 20% higher in the next few weeks. He said he'd end inflation. It's up 2.4% overall. 18% for coffee, 15% for beef, 3% for housing, and a projected 20% rise if we're not out of Iran in a week. Eggs went down some 40%, which is great. But that's from the end of a bird flu outbreak. So unless Donnie was out there snapping infected bird necks himself, he had nothing to do with it. He claimed there'd be a job boom, but the market is actually stalled with the smallest growth in the last 20 years. He claimed there'd be a manufacturing renaissance. We've lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs overall. He claimed the tariffs would be great for farmers. Instead, 15,000 farms have closed. Farmers are taking out loans to stay afloat, rising to $625 billion in new debt, the highest in history, and the row crop industry is already in a recession. He said he'd cut the national debt. He's added $3 trillion to it. He said he'd make housing more affordable, then got into office and said he'd keep housing prices up. He said he'd never touch Medicare. He cut $1 trillion from the budget, and 17 million people are losing coverage. He said he'd protect Social Security. Then his own Treasury Secretary claimed they'd privatize it. He said he'd make healthcare cheaper. Every single person's healthcare costs have risen, some by over 600%. He said he'd end the war in Ukraine in under 24 hours. He said there'd be no new wars. He said he'd release the Epstein files. He said he'd only deport violent criminal immigrants. He said he'd end corruption and drain the swamp. But it turns out, he only replaced it with a bigger swampier swamp with a big gold Trump sign at the entrance.